and I see Bradley. Hey, Bradley. I'm really excited to be here. I'm happy to be here as always. So,
good deal. Well, we're gonna so let's check in with Marco. Marco, how's the weather down there?
Hey man, it's beautiful still. Hasn't rained and I can't remember how long. So warm, sunny. Sorry about the snow, guys. Wish you were here. Not.
Yeah, there's a reason I'm wearing a hoodie, and we've got about, I don't know, 18, 24 inches, 2 feet. Yeah, there's a ton. It's crazy. So it's like a blizzard outside. It looks like that wall outside. So anyway,
crazy.
Bradley, how's it going, man?
I'm good. Cold as hell in Virginia as well. It's like 20-some degrees. It's awful. It's been windy all day. It was like 75 degrees over the weekend. So it's crazy. But anyways, glad to be here. We've got several questions already. What announcements do we have for today?
Well, we wanted to let everybody know, or actually I'll let Marco, you want to tell people about the iFrame webinar?
Yeah, I want to tell them about the replay, actually.
Okay.
Caesar's working on it. We have a Caesar. So he's getting that done. And once he has it all spliced together, taking out the technical difficulties and everything that we ran into, we will make it available for 24 hours only. If you miss it after that time, I'm sorry, you can't have it. It's going on pay-per-view. And since it's my webinar, I decide what to charge. It's not, I'm sorry, but it's not a Semantic Mastery webinar. I did it. It was on my time. It was on my dime. And so I know that we always say membership has its privileges, but in this case, the privilege was getting all that information for free.
Gotcha. And yeah, to say it too, the reason there's a replay, right, is because there was that issue that we had some technical issues.
Right.
Out of our control, so we don't want to, penalize people who signed up because of that. So
it was going to go on pay-per-view immediately after it was done, but since we had those technical difficulties, we'll replay it for it'll be 24 hours exactly, and then that's it. Don't ask for anything else. You're not getting anything else.
Cool.
I like I like that pay-per-view term. It's like Mayweather versus Pacquiao. This case is going to be Benavides versus the search engine or something like that,
Benavides versus
That's
Google.
Funny.
This is me versus Google and the IM world, because IMers got me pissed, man. And so I'm locked and loaded and I'm ready for war.
There you go.
Awesome. All right. Well,
we should work it up.
Huh? What's that?
Let's get Marco a fighting robe and all that shit.
Oh yeah,
awesome.
I'll take the bets.
In some SERP Space news and some happier news, Video Powerhouse members got some Vmail prospecting templates to go along with the video email prospecting course, which is kind of cool. And then they also got a free customer acquisition funnel last week, which is pretty sweet. So if you didn't hop in a Powerhouse launch, I'm going to pop a link in here and it'll be in the show notes. You can check that out if you're interested, if we reopen that up here down the road and you want to get some pretty sweet bonuses, along with obviously Video Powerhouse, which is pretty sweet. And then also for SERP Space, they're having for 3 days, you guys can get 15% off any syndication network. And that also includes link building if you order it with the network. So a pretty sweet deal. It's pretty rare we give that SERP Space gives 15% off on the link building. So if you order that all together, it'll be off everything you order right then and there, so long as it's a syndication network and link building. So by all means, take advantage of that. We'll email that out to our subscribers and SERP Space subscribers, so you guys can take advantage of that.
Cool.
And that, I believe, is it. So should we get into it?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I had a stupid Windows update this morning. It took like almost an hour. It was ridiculous. And now like a whole bunch of settings have been updated. Apparently I'm getting desktop notifications for every freaking email. It's unbelievable. So I'm a little bit discombobulated, guys. Sorry, forgive me for that. Let me grab the screen and we'll get into it. Can you guys hear me?
Go.
Now we can.
There we go.
Now you can hear me?
Yep.
Okay. What about when I change screens? Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. What a long delay that was. I'm not sure I'm really crazy about this webinar jam platform. It seems like we've been having trouble with it the last couple webinars. So we might have to discuss that at a later time, guys. All right. So Scott Holden is up first. He said, general question on link building best practices and ordering services from SERP Space done for you links. When I add links to a local service site, I firstly create my main branded social sites such as GMB, then Google+, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Then I build local and national citations, keeping my NAP the same as my GMB NAP across all citations. Now I'm ready to add links to anything and everything. In what order would you recommend ordering links from SERP Space? Would you firstly create a blog on my site and then set an IFTTT network order for it? Yes. That's always the first thing that I do, Scott. In fact, we're actually working on, Hernan started working on kind of like a blueprint or a roadmap of like how, like the process that we use whenever launching new properties or new marketing campaigns, period. Right. Mm-hmm. Hernan, you want to talk about that briefly?
Yeah, definitely. We had this upcoming question like over and over, and we know that we had this discussion yesterday, and we know that it's kind of overwhelming, if you would, because we were putting out content and good stuff pretty much every week or every day, I would say, out there. So what we're doing is to do kind of a blueprint or a battle plan. And the main point is that you have a clear understanding of what to do on-site SEO-wise, number one. Then, depending on what you need, for example, if it's a news site, if it's an age site that needs a bump, if it's a local website, if it's a YouTube video, depending on what you need, well, we're going to lay out kind of a strategy step by step so that you can follow it. And it's basically the strategy that we have been following for, our own properties, our own case studies. We have been teaching to mastermind members, et cetera, et cetera. So it's going to be pretty cool. So I think it's going to take, maybe another week or so, but it's going to be ready. It's going to be ready to access, and it's going to be pretty cool.
And that's great. And is that going to be just so people know where they're going to be able to find that? Is that something that's inside of SERP Space, or is it going to be something that you purchase, or like how are we going to work that?
I think that we're going to work it out in a way that it's a separate product. Okay. It's going to be affordable, but and we haven't discussed the details yet, but I think that it's going to be a separate product and it's going to be affordable enough so that you can grab it and take it. But that's basically how I think it's gonna work out.
Awesome, very good, thank you. And so Scott, that's the reason why I brought that up with Hernan just now, is because I know that we're working on that, because that this is a question that comes up a lot, and not only comes up in Hump Day Hangouts, but we get it in support a lot as well. So you're not the only one. And, we're definitely working on trying to provide a better process for people to be able to order services and use basically the same methods that we use. Okay. So that said, the way that I do, and this is probably going to be unique to each one of us on the team here, but the way that I launch new campaigns when there's a website, especially for local stuff, is I build the site, do the main social network properties, which you've already done. And then I immediately order an IFTTT network. So because it takes a few days, a week, or, a week to 10 days or whatever for me to get it back from the builders. So I usually order that while I'm actually setting up the site. And once the site has been completed and I get the network back, it's been connected via RSS, then I'll end up having at least 3 posts. That's my bare minimum. I always publish 3 blog posts to the money site itself, and then that syndicates and basically what I call primes the network, right? So you're putting those initial posts out there, getting some initial backlinks, social signals, that kind of thing back to the money site. Okay, then I order the RYS or the drive stack at the same time because that takes a week or so, a week and a half to get back. And while I'm publishing the blog post, because I don't usually put out all 3 blog posts in the same day, I will put them all out in the same week, but I usually stagger like one every other day or something like that when I'm publishing, right? So that it's not like just boom, 3 posts out there at once. So while the drive stack's being built, I'm working on syndicating the content to the network, right? And then I also ordered the citations package because, it's certainly not something that I do. So I ordered that or outsource that. And then once the 3 posts have been published, that's about the time that I get the RYS stack back, right? So the drive stack back. And now I have a whole bunch of links. I've got my IFTTT network links. I've got my citations, the first batch of citations back from the citation from our citation service, right? And then I also have my drive stack links. So then I end up having pretty much all the links that I need that I want to build additional links to. So that's when I'll go, after I get that back, then I'll go over to the to SERP Space, to the link building packages, and I'll end up submitting all the URLs from those. Now, you don't have to submit all your URLs. You can hand select a few of them, in which case I recommend, if you're going to do that, like if you want to boost certain properties over others, then you would just filter out the ones that you're not so concerned with. But typically what I do is boost all of the the profile URLs for all of the IFTTT network properties, or I should be saying syndication network properties, because that to me has the most, it's the most efficient. And what I mean by that is a lot of times we get the question, and this comes up often as well, should we be building links to the individual post URLs from the Web 2 properties? Yes, that's super powerful, but it also requires a lot of work because you manually have to go scrape those post URLs whenever you want to start a new link building campaign. Whereas if you build links just directly to the homepage, depending on how you have your settings on each one of the properties, especially for the blogs, but like for example, Blogger, WordPress, Tumblr, you're going to build links to that homepage, and there will be a number of posts on that page before they start to paginate, right? Where they go to like the archive page or page 2 or whatever. So a lot of times I'll just build links directly to the homepage URLs or the profile URLs from the syndication networks. And that way, when I start to syndicate additional posts, first of all, the 3 posts that I've started with will already be on the homepage, right? So they're going to benefit from those additional links anyways. But then whenever I go to publish new posts, they're going to automatically be placed on the homepage of the blogs, which means they're going to benefit from all that inbound link juice to those syndication network properties. Does that make sense? So it's kind of like, and we talk about this a lot, or we've done this several times in masterclass, because that's where we do our live case studies and such. And so that process has been shown repeatedly through there, both for local sites, and I do the same thing for affiliate sites. So it's just a matter of, setting up the process, and it works out. The timing works out to be, it works out well. Okay. Do you guys have anything else you do differently?
No, I mean, we usually take the same approach, Bradley, on that case. So the reality is that, for example, on the IFTTT network, we are stating on one of the I'm gonna give away a little line of the battle plan. One of the things that we are saying is that if your IFTTT network is brand new, you can order a small package, but if you're pumping an H site, you can kind of order a bigger package if that's the case, if the properties are H, et cetera, but the rest of the mechanics are pretty much the same on my end too.
And it's a great question, Scott. And so, yeah, in reading the rest of your question, I mean, that's exactly the way I do it. So just to recap from a brand new site, is while I'm building the site, I ordered the network. Just make sure that there's one post in the RSS feed. It can even be the hello world post. It doesn't matter. There just has to be a post present when you order the network, right? Or else the RSS feed will throw an error when you try to connect it to IFTTT, or when the builders try to connect it, and will slow the build process down. Okay, so my point is just have at least one post in the feed, and it can be the hello world post. That's fine. Then build out the site while the network's being built. When you get the network built, or network back to you, then publish. I always do a minimum of 3 posts, and then I'll order the drive stack at the same time that I get the network back. And then once the drive stack gets returned, and also, by the way, at the same time that I order the drive stack, I'll order the citations, right? And usually I get the first batch of citations back around the same time that I'll get the drive stack back. And then I'll just go over to the to SERP Space and order links for all of those, right? The citations, the first batch of citations, the IFTTT network properties, and the drive stacks. Okay, that's the way I do it. And then it's about always building more citations if it's for a local business, and continuously publishing content, right? So get on a good publishing schedule. And it's going to vary obviously depending on industry, but it could be 1 post per week. It could be 1 post every 2 weeks. It could be 3 posts per week. It just depends on your industry and what you think it's going to require. But then that's what I do, is I start publishing posts regularly, and then just start monitoring ranking results. And citations are constantly being built as well. But I'm using a rank tracker all the time. So I'll go in and check on the rank tracking, see where stuff is. And if I should see movement from publishing posts at that point. If I don't, after a few weeks, and remember, you got to be careful, especially with a new site. You don't want to go too fast. And I noticed you said something about what velocity, but as far as building additional links directly to the site, and that's you want to be careful with that. But that's why I prefer using the syndication networks and the drive stacks and citations, because I build all my links to those instead of directly to the site. The links that are built directly to the site come from my blog syndication when I'm publishing blog posts and syndicating those out. Everything else, all the external link building is being done to tier 1 or beyond, if that makes sense. So the velocity to my actual site is relatively low. The velocity is determined by my frequency of publishing. Does that make sense? So it's a great question though, Scott. And again, that's why Hernan is diligently working on this roadmap or blueprint, whatever you want to call it. And that should be available shortly. And we'll make sure everybody's aware of how they can get it. Jay's up. He says, hey guys, can I use the syndication network strategies and all the other link building strategies of Semantic Mastery on a Shopify store? As far as I know, Jay, you can. I have never done anything with Shopify. So I'm not 100% sure, how that works and everything, but I can't imagine why it wouldn't work. Somebody else want to comment on that? Have any of you guys done anything with Shopify? I don't think any of us have.
Yeah, it's been a little while though. And while you can't do the subdomain, you should be able to install WordPress in a folder, I thought. So I would look into that more, either a subdomain or a folder. There's definitely a way to do this. I know stores that did do that they would use that for their blog for a Shopify store.
Yeah.
Well, if you have a custom domain for your Shopify store, then you should be able, you can absolutely add a blog to a subdomain, because all you need to do is map the domain over to Shopify via a DNS service. You can do it in cPanel, but I prefer using something like Cloudflare or Amazon Route 53. And then you could set the subdomain to point to whatever hosting account you want, right? So you just set an A record for a subdomain and point to the IP of your host account. And that's how you would set up a WordPress blog on a subdomain if you're using a custom domain for a Shopify store.
Yeah, and just to clear up that last one, you betcha. Sorry, I can't see who's asking this, but if they've got an Atom feed, hell yes, you can use that to trigger the network.
Yeah, I don't know how the formatting works for publishing posts on a Shopify store. If you have a full WYSIWYG editor that you can basically create normal type blog posts with, then yeah, you should be able to use it. If it's an Atom RSS feed, that shouldn't have create any problems triggering the applets to work in IFTTT. Okay. But yeah, I mean, there's two things you can do. One, if you're using a custom domain, you have to map the domain over to the Shopify store anyways. If Shopify hosts your store and you're using a custom domain, you have to be able to map it over there anyways, right? That's going to be required. So in that case, you could use a third-party DNS service and then create a subdomain anyways, and just point that to whatever hosting account you want, right? So, and that's easy. Like I said, you just set an A record with the IP address as the record. And it's very simple to do. However, if you don't, and for whatever reason, if your blog function within Shopify doesn't give you the functionality that you want, then you could always create just another website that's used specifically for the blog to promote your Shopify store. And that's not the most beneficial way to do it, but it's an alternative that will at least provide some results. It won't be as good as, like I said, as being able to have a blog on the same domain. There's no doubt. But if you can, I mean, if that's all you can do, that's all you can do. It's better than nothing.
Yeah, and there's a ton of tutorials out there. If you for any of these solutions we talked about, if you want to use WordPress, just Google how to install WordPress blog on Shopify, and if you want to just use theirs and syndicate from that link you put out, then you can do that too.
Yep. Okay, Toby's up. Virginia Surgeons. He says, in the follow-up on Jay's question, are any of you geniuses doing any Shopify, Amazon selling, or just SEO, contracting, rank, and rent? Thanks, Toby. I've never done any Shopify, but I'm in the process of starting an Amazon store right now. I've been working on it in my limited free time in the evenings for the last week and a half. And I'm actually going to be announcing an Amazon case study, an Amazon store case study for the mastermind on Thursday next week. So I'm going to be basically announcing that. So I'm getting started on that now. My daughter and I are actually building an Amazon store together. And that's kind of a little side project I'm doing with her. And it's funny, but she wants to sell like unicorns and fake mustaches and things like that. and so I said,
Nice.
hey, if anything I can do to, because she's 11, I said, anything I can do to get her involved with my business in any way, shape, or form, I'm happy to do it. And so I'm going to make the case study part of the mastermind. So that's something that I'm actually kind of looking forward to doing, because I've never done any e-com stuff before at all. But we do more than just rank and rent, Toby. You're thinking about like local SEO stuff. I mean, we've been doing Amazon case studies and not Amazon, affiliate case studies. And we've done plenty of LaunchJack case studies and everything else. So, the majority of what I've done throughout my career has been local or lead gen or local consulting, that kind of stuff. But, I've expanded over the last year a lot, and that's a lot less of my business now than it used to be. So we try to teach a lot of other stuff outside of just local stuff, guys. And anybody that's in our more advanced groups would know that. So come join us, Toby. That's what I'm trying to say. Edward is a new mastermind member. He just joined yesterday. It's awesome, Edward. Thanks and welcome. He says, I am outsourcing websites. The guy I am using is amazing. The issue I have is having content for him on all pages of a site. How can I get all of it done without spending hours doing each page myself, and getting it from the client is impossible? How to outsource this? Good question, Edward. The best thing that you can possibly do for your business is start hiring writers, interviewing and hiring writers. I would recommend going to Upwork to start. And you can actually go through. In fact, Edward, since you're a member of Semantic Mastery, we have a discount for Outsource Kingpin available to you, or I'm not sure exactly how that works at the moment because we've changed some things recently, but you have at least a discount if nothing else. So we'll make sure that you get access to that, depending on what it is that we got to do to get it to you. But you should go through that, because you can set up an outsource hiring funnel that you can put a couple of writers through. And you're going to have to pay each writer that you give to put through the process and give them a small writing task. And what I do is I've got writers now because I've screened them and found some really good ones over the last, several years that I use now. But what I was trying to say was the best thing that you can do is to hire a writer directly, not going to a content farm and buying shitty spun articles that, are just trash content. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about developing a relationship with a writer that you can contact at any time on an as needed basis and send work to. That is one of the best things that you can have on your team is a contractor available for writing, or multiple contractors. That's what I recommend. Most of the SEO work that I do for my clients and my lead gen sites, guys, is just I have curators on staff that curate and publish posts, because all the heavy lifting's been done for most of my projects, and so it's just a matter of maintaining rankings, which basically is just content marketing, because of all the IFTTT work and all the external, the link building and everything else that has been done already. It's just a matter of maintaining rankings, and that just requires content marketing. So the majority of my SEO business now is really just managing a team of curators. But I also have writers. There's a difference between a writer and a curator. But writers, I have several writers that I use for various projects that are outstanding as well. One in the UK, one in Africa, and one here in America, in the US. So I've got 3 different writers that I use all the time. All 3 of them I've been able to hire from Upwork or other outsourcing type sites that I ended up pulling them from those escrow sites and hiring them direct. And they work direct for me now on an as needed basis. So I just pay them on a per article basis, or like a press release, or per article, or per word, depending on what the project is. But I highly recommend that that's what you do, is start going through, first of all, the Outsource Kingpin. I know you've got so much on your plate, Edward, right now. So I recommend going through the Outsource Kingpin product, because it will help you to streamline trying to, screen potential writers. It takes a little bit of work to set up, but trust me, it's going to save you so much time compared to what you would spend if you had to screen every single one of the candidates manually, right? So, but that's what I recommend, is that you go out and you start looking for your own and hiring and screening, and then hiring your own writers for your own projects, because having somebody that you can contact via Skype or whatever at any time and just submit projects to and have them do it well, is so much. It's going to be critical to growing your business. You guys have any comments for that?
No, I totally agree with you, Bradley. I totally agree. The fact that, there are some services out there, but the reality that the best way to go is to get a writer that, you can treat directly with, because, if you go to a content farm, or you will end up screwing up your website getting the index. So that's not worth the trouble. Number one. Number two, if you go to a kind of, how would I put it? There are services out there that they're really good, but they will charge on top of each article because they have overhead. They have editors and they have a bunch of things.
Right.
So if you want like a send up forget, that's the way, and you're willing to pay premium, that's the way to go. But again, I think that a good content writer for whatever you need, press releases, curation, even big time money sites and big time projects, I think that having a content and paying them well, treating them well as you would with any other contractor, I think that's golden. And once you find one, you need to keep them happy, because the content writers that they really deliver and they are on time and they do not disappear as with any other contractor, basically they are really valuable, number one. And outsource campaign will help you achieving exactly that. You will be mind blown with the quality of contractors that you can find using that process.
Yeah, and how quickly. And then, as Chris says, here's the second part of his comment to you, Edward. And then you can train them. You can train the curators, or you can. Here's the thing: for pages on a site, guys, I don't recommend curating. It's okay to curate content within a page, there's no doubt. But generally, for websites, for pages, I have original content written. But for posts, I always curate because it's so much more efficient, right? And I don't do any of the curating myself now. I've got a team that does it, right? But curating is so much more efficient for the blog posts, and it not only is it efficient, but it also it responds well. Google responds well to that type of content. And so, for writers, I would recommend hiring writers. For curators, you can hire just virtual assistants that have no writing experience whatsoever. I mean, obviously they have to, but let me just explain what I mean. I've got curators in the Philippines that curate on a lot of my lead gen sites, or when I used to do a lot of PBN work, which I don't anymore, but when I used to do a lot of that, they would curate on the PBN sites for backlinks, basically, for link building. But they'll do a lot of the curated posts for my lead gen sites. And then all of my curators for money sites, for client sites, I end up having native English speaking curators, which again, I've got my 3 writers that have been trained in curating. And what did I do to train them to curate? I put them through Content Kingpin. I'm not kidding. My 3 writers that I just talked about, I've got one in the US, one in UK, and one in Africa. Those 3 writers are amazing, but I put them through Content Kingpin to show that it was called Curation Mastery at the time. In fact, it wasn't even a product. I created the product to teach my writers how to curate, and then I created the product out of that training, if that makes sense. But so, they do the actual curated posts on the money sites as well. But there's a huge difference in how much money you can charge between, like, for example, having original content written and then having curated content. You can make a hell of a lot more money curating content and paying the curators only a portion of what you charge the client. So, for example, if you charge a client, let's say, $35 or $40 per post that you syndicate to their blog, right? Or that you publish to their blog, you can pay a curator anywhere, say, let's $15 or $20 per post. And that's on the high end. But as Hernan just mentioned, I always pay my good writers, my good curators top dollar, because I want them working for me. And in fact, one of our writers that here in the US, her name is Elan. We work with her. I've been working with her for over 3 years now. And we give her work all the time. Like, we just sent her another job today for another writing job for a press release. So, I mean, like, it's crazy. But I've kept some of these writers and curators now for years because they're just really good. And so, for curating posts, you can charge a client $35, $40. And this is I'm just pulling this number out of the air. I've got a lot of clients like this, but say $35 or $40 and you pay the curator $15 or $20, you make a nice spread and you don't have to do jack except manage them, which is very easy to do once they get into a routine, and put them through the Content Kingpin course. And we have no problem with you sending your virtual assistants that you've hired through the course. Okay. We've got no problem with that. Okay. Anyways, that's a whole nother stream of revenue in itself, Edward, is just content marketing services. And that does not require results based. I mean, yeah, you can use that in your pitch for the services, is that it's going to produce results. It's going to help SEO, blah, blah, blah. But you can sell just content marketing services alone without even mentioning SEO. And it's an activity based service and instead of a results based service. In other words, you get paid just for the publishing of posts, right? Whether it produces results or not. Now, if it's part of an SEO package, obviously you're going to want those to produce results, and they usually will if you know what you're doing. Follow our training, you'll be fine. So, great question. Dean says, does reducing Googlebots crawl rate affect anything negatively? The reason I'm asking is a project I've been working on in the last 4 months made a jump in SERPs in January, and the site before that date had 7,000 pages a day crawled and 600 megabytes of data downloaded. G-Analytics crawl data. Mid-January, the crawled pages data downloaded and hosting costs spiked massively to 6,000 pages per day crawled and 3.6 gigabytes of data downloaded, and that's been constant at that new rate now since mid-Jan. Traffic's up, but hosting costs have hiked massively. If that's all bot traffic, I wouldn't, Dean. I would limit that. I've never tested like reducing bot crawl rate for SEO, like if it's had an effect. But I have reduced crawl rate before because it was slamming the servers, and I did that specifically for that reason. And honestly, I never really tested that specifically for SEO purposes. Marco, that's probably more up your alley. You got any comment on that?
No, I mean, it's nothing that I've ever tested, and so I couldn't answer it properly.
Okay. I would mess, Dean. I mean, worst thing that can happen is if you adjust your crawl rate or reduce the crawl rate, and then it affects rankings. You can always bump it back up. But I mean, if you've got Google hammering your site with that many bots, yeah, I can put a hell of a load on a server. In fact, if you're on a shared server, a lot of the times you'll end up getting suspended for that. Like they'll suspend your hosting account for that kind of stuff. I've had it happen many times. And a lot of times it's been just from like PBN sites that for some reason just got a super amount of bots come crawl it for some reason, and it ended up causing, because on PBN hosting, that type of stuff is oftentimes really overloaded IPs. So, you're sharing with hundreds of other sites. But if you're paying for the actual bandwidth usage, then I would recommend that you reduce the crawl rate. Okay.
Okay. Now let me give him a recommendation if he is going to do this, because if this is definitely G-Analytics crawl data, if it's being crawled by Google rather than other bots, like determine the source of the bots,
right?
Because a lot of them you need to block, and that's just htaccess,
spam bots,
right?
Yeah.
But if you can determine that those are good sources, and you're going to reduce the crawl rate, then I would start small and see if there's any significant changes, and continue until you see a change in ranking, a negative change, right? You may not see one. If you do, then you boost it back up, because there's no reason if you're getting good rankings, even if you have a spike in what you're paying for hosting. I mean, this is a good thing. Rankings is what you want, because that's what brings you traffic. Except that if it's not affecting your bottom line, right. Your bottom line should reflect your rankings increase and your traffic and the money that the website is making. If none of those are happening, then you have to reduce that so that you reduce costs. So be careful with whatever it is that you decide to do.
That's right. Make a small change and give it a few days. Watch everything, and then if nothing negative happened, Dean, go back and reduce the rate a little bit more, and do just like he said, do it incrementally. Okay, Michael Zubby says, does not adding a meta description to web page better rank a page? The reason I'm asking, I see a plethora of sites on the first page of Google with no meta description, and it appears that Google displays the appropriate information from the page that relates to the query. I've tested this a few times, and I have seen the meta description data change. Just want to know if this is something Semantic Mastery has noticed, and if this tactic is effective. Okay, so Michael, the official response would be that the meta description shouldn't affect rankings at all. I've played with it though, and what can happen is if the meta description is over optimized, and there's 4 things that the bot first looks at when it comes to crawl a page, right? And that's going to be the SEO title, number 1. Number 2 is the URL. Number 3 is the page title, and number 4 is the meta description, right? And so the page title meaning the H1 tag, right? And so those 4 things, if you over optimize across those 4 things, include and the meta description being number 4, then yes, it can negatively affect rankings. I've seen that. I've tested that, and I've proven that multiple times. If you're over optimized across those 4, okay. Typically, if you know what you're doing, you're not going to be over optimized across those 4, and in which case the meta description should have no effect on rankings. That's the official word from Google. However, let me explain. I don't go in and optimize meta descriptions until pages start to rank. So what I do is I let the SEO plugin display whatever meta description it wants, or whatever meta description Google pulls from the page. So in other words, I don't set a meta description when I set up the pages on a site or posts or whatever. I don't set that. I just allow whatever Google data to pull from the page that it wants related to the query that the searcher puts in. However, once that page starts to rank, and again, I'm using rank trackers, right? So once I know that the page has started to rank on first page, and I'm starting to see traffic coming in either through analytics or if I'm looking at Search Console, whatever, and I'm seeing data where I'm seeing clicks coming through, that's when I'll go in and I start optimizing meta descriptions. And I don't optimize for SEO. I optimize for click-through rate. Does that make sense? Guys, your meta description is short. It should be considered a call to action, like ad copy, right? It should be like ad copy. It should be optimized to compel a visitor, a searcher, a Google user to click your ad. So to click your link over the other links that are above it or below it, or both, because that's basically ad copy. It should be a call to action. It should be very compelling. So whenever I go to optimize meta descriptions, I'm optimizing for conversions or CTA, click-through rate, CTR, not for SEO. Because if you follow the rules at least what I follow as far as the 4 things that the bot looks at first when it comes to crawl a page, again, SEO title, URL, page title or H1, and meta description, then you're only going to want to be optimized in any one of those locations, preferably the SEO title for your exact match keyword anyways. The other 3 areas, you can have co-occurring or LSI type keywords in there, but you don't want to stuff because that would be over optimization. So treat your meta description as ad copy, like a small billboard. Use it to write a compelling call to action.
That's exactly what I tell my coaching students. I'm giving a lot of stuff away that I teach my coaching students. I don't know why, because they pay me a lot of money for it. But anyway, that's an ad, right? It's like taking an ad out in the newspaper. What do you want that newspaper to say? What is that ad that makes it so compelling over any others? Because you have to remember that everyone is trying to say the same thing. You have to make yours stand out, right? And so it's almost like in AdWords you have a lot less space, so you really have to work on that. In a website and in the meta description, you have a lot more space to try to get that person to click over to your website. And it's one of the most important things that you can do is write that really well so that the person will focus on it, see it, and want to click, get that trigger finger effect.
Right. And that's why I don't do that until after the page starts to rank and I start seeing some, if nothing else, rank. I don't have to start seeing traffic, because typically once I see it rank on first page, then I know that it's time to go optimize the description so that I can get the click-through rate up. Does that make sense? So that people will choose my link over other links on the same search result page. And because the reason why is because copywriting is not my strong suit. I'm okay at it, but it takes me forever to copy any sort of copywriting. Even writing a stupid AdWords ad sometimes takes me 15 minutes, which is like it's like 2 short lines of text. You know what I mean? But it's very, very painful for me to write a compelling call to action like that. It's just tough for me. So that's why I always wait until the page ranks to go do it, because otherwise, if I was trying to optimize the meta descriptions of every page on a site, I mean, it would take hours, you know what I mean? And so I typically will just wait until it starts to rank, and then I'll go in, and that's my compelling reason for going in optimizing it at that point. right?
Yeah. Sorry, Bradley, if I can add something, is that
Sure.
don't worry about it, because the shorter the ad, the tougher it is, to write compelling ad in, I don't know. I think there are 300 characters or something like that on AdWords. It's crazy. So, so that's number one. And number two, that's why it really pays to us as entrepreneurs to know about copywriting. I think that it's one of the best skills that we could learn. And one of the things that has been helping me a lot was going through, Gary Halbert material. And I've been sharing this with Adam a lot lately. And Gary Halbert material. And if you can, like writing the ads that you see that they're compelling to you, copying them and having kind of a swag file. And if you see a really good description, you're surfing, you're using Google as a user, and then you see, okay, so why do I click on this, this specific result and not the other one? And, take a screenshot and make a swag file, and then you will start seeing patterns that will allow you to write better descriptions to your website that entice the click, Yeah. So I think that's valuable, and any one of us should have some sort of swag file or, some place where you can go back and rewrite things that are enticing for people to click. I totally agree with Marco. When you're doing AdWords, when you're paying per click, you cannot miss this. You really need to hone in your copywriting skills. But, we as SEOs, we take copywriting like, as a secondary skill, and we should be really honing it down.
Yeah.
So.
And that's interesting because, I do a ton of AdWords stuff now, and that's something that I've learned to actually even use AdWords to help you write your meta descriptions for your pages that you're ranking, because you can test keywords and ad copy in AdWords ads very easily, right? I mean, as soon as your ad gets approved, which is usually within a couple of hours from the time you submit it to AdWords, it will start sending traffic, right? As soon as it's approved, it'll start sending traffic. And so if you can get your click-through rate up on your AdWords ads, and that's the only way you do that is through split testing, right? You constantly split test. You always never stop split testing ads. So you can change the headline or description 1, description 2, or any one of those 3. But the point is you always run 2 ads against each other, and then whatever the better performing ad is after a certain amount of time or a certain amount of clicks, you determine what that threshold is. But let's say that you allow 50 clicks. And then between those 2, and then you determine the winner, and AdWords will tell you which the winner is. Then you pause the underperforming ad and then write a new ad to compete with the ad that was performing better. And you do another 50 clicks, and you constantly are trying to improve that click-through rate. And what you'll find is if you're doing both SEO and AdWords for projects, then you can use AdWords to help identify or help to tell you how to write the meta description, because you're seeing all the data. You know which meta description, or in this case, an ad description, is producing the best or the highest click-through rate. So that's the most compelling text or the most compelling copy. And you can now add that same copy or a variation of it, something very similar to it, to the meta description of the page that you're also trying to rank for the same keywords. That makes sense. Okay, so AdWords will give you the ability to test your meta descriptions and identify or constantly improve your meta descriptions. And it's a hell of a lot faster than trying to change a meta description on a page and wait for Google to update the index results, because that won't be instantaneous. And then trying to monitor SEO traffic through that and determine if your previous meta description was more compelling than the new one, if that makes sense. It's just a lot faster to test using AdWords. That's all I'm saying. All right, moving on. Greg says, have you guys used this feature much to move a non-branded YouTube channel to a branded channel? In order to use the ad remove manager feature, any repercussions on a channel that's got about 13,000 subscribers? Okay, Greg, I've never done it to move a profile account to a brand account. I've moved one brand account to another. So essentially, I've reassigned a brand channel to another Google Plus brand page, but I've never done it from a profile to a brand account. So I don't know what I would suggest doing. Look, I don't think it would affect the 13,000 subscribers, but I don't know that for sure. And I would not recommend testing it with that channel. So what I would do is set up a dummy channel, or under one of your personas, or just set up a persona. So you're talking about using a profile account or a profile channel instead of a brand channel, right? So set up a profile, just a dummy profile, create a channel, for a YouTube channel for that. And then I don't know, post in the mastermind, and we'll get a few of us to subscribe to the channel, and then reassign it to a brand page and see if it loses your subscribers, right? If it does anything to the subscriber count after when you go to transfer ownership to the brand page, then you know not to do that. But if everything works out okay, then I'd say, yeah, go ahead. I don't see why it would be a problem. But I've never actually moved a profile account to a brand account. I've done brand to brand, but never profile to brand. It's just not something that's ever come up for me. You guys have any experience on that? That's awesome. Okay, apparently not. Moving on. All right. Let's see. Adam said that we're having a sale for networks and link building, 3 days only. So go get them, guys. Ken says, since Backlink Commando is no longer working, can we use RSS Masher to merge all the feeds? And then how would we be able to scrape all the URLs like we did with Backlink Commando? Ken, go watch last month's Syndication Academy update webinar. It's in the members area. Go check it out. The month of February. It's I believe it was update webinar number 9 for February 2017. Go watch that. That has been solved. It's not as automated. It is automated. It takes a little bit of work to set up, but it's I liked the Backlink Commando process that we had. Unfortunately, that doesn't work anymore. They stopped supporting that plugin. So the workaround, which by the way, Rico Suave, he's the one that gave me the idea and provided that. So I'm going to give him credit. All I did was expand on it and provided training for exactly how to set it up. And that's in the last Syndication Academy update webinar. How can I embed an iFrame on a WordPress blog? I've tried in text mode and WordPress still changes it. Marco, you got a comment for that?
Let me see, text mode. Go aheid.
No, I mean, an
embed
iFrame
code,
on a
right?
WordPress blog, yeah. But yeah, in text mode, the HTML code should do it. I mean, you need to save that. You need to save. My experience is that you need to save it while you are in text or HTML mode. You know?
Yeah.
Because if you roll back to the WYSIWYG editor, maybe it gets stripped out. So, but depending if you want to do on a widget, you can do HTML directly. If you want to do on a post, then you go to the text mode, and then you save the post or you publish the post while it is in text mode. Does that make sense?
All right.
Yeah.
Let me just add this. YouTube embed code will be changed by WordPress. They will add their own, but I don't see why it would change any other type of iframe. I mean, it's just HTML, and you're allowed to go into your WYSIWYG editor as HTML. So it could be switching back and forth between HTML and the text. That's when it might get stripped. So.
All right, here's a plugin that I use whenever I come across shitty WordPress problems that are due to the editor, the text editor or the WYSIWYG editor, whatever. That happens often in WordPress, guys. It is what it is. But use this plugin, WordPress plugin called Raw HTML. Once you install and activate that plugin, then all you do is wrap whatever text that you don't want WordPress formatting to strip. You wrap them in these tags, right? These short codes, raw and then close raw. That's it. Once you do that, WordPress won't touch anything between those tags or the short codes. Okay? So try that and see if that works for you, Ken. Okay, next. Let's see. Adam,
Looks
Mastermind
like,
is next week.
Yeah, real quick. He just posted. Ken was saying he was talking about WordPress.com.
Oh.
Sorry,
I don't know.
that. Okay.
I have no idea. I don't know what you can do on that. Because I know on self-hosted blogs you can install plugins like Raw HTML, but I know with WordPress.com you probably can't, so I'm not sure.
Try going into the widget section and adding it in the text box.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know what the deal is with that on WordPress.com, Ken. Sorry. I haven't played with that. Okay, so Edward's up. Yeah, Mastermind is next week, Edward. It's every other week, and next week is the next Thursday is the next scheduled.
And you'll get an email, notification.
Yeah. Edward says, please explain Hernan's product again. I really have to bring a difficult real estate client to rank. His competitors have 20,000 links. Help. Not sure where to go for drive stack links. What can I do for him now? Well, I'll tell you what, Edward, because we can give this a lot more attention in Mastermind. So since you're in Mastermind now, if you want to post this question in there, we can start a thread where we can get not only us, but our other members in there to chime in. You'll probably get a hell of a lot more out of it than we could right here now anyways. And we can explain, like I said, a little bit more about what the roadmap or blueprint is that Hernan's working on. That should be available within the next week or two. So, but in the meantime, just start a thread in the Mastermind and we'll get on it, okay? Watch out for these fembots. That's awesome. Austin Powers. That's one of my favorite movies. All right. WordPress.com. Thanks. Cool. It looks like everybody's wrapped up. That's great. Guys, got any other questions? Better post them quick because we're going to wrap it up. We've got Syndication Academy update webinar number 10 today. Yes, Wayne, we have it today. Okay. So we're going to have that in about 5 minutes. It will be a short webinar, but I've got some properties I'm going to share with you guys and a couple updates. So be there or be square. There is, if you're trying to find out where it's at, go to the Facebook group, click on the events tab, and you'll see the upcoming event. Okay?
So I've got a question for you, Bradley, because you embedded files and folders and everything on a free WordPress blog for SEO Virginia.
Yeah, we can go look at it. And all I did was just grab the iframes and put them in there. So
I don't understand why he's running.
I don't know either.
So it could just be the template that he's using, right?
Might be. Here we go. Number 2, and look at this, guys. This is what I love about this.
Yeah, I showed that yesterday.
Yeah, it's a WordPress.com site, and it has 0 content except for this right here. This post. This is the only content in this post. The rest is everything else is just embeds, and it's ranked number 2 for SEO Virginia, and it has been for months. It's awesome. But yeah, all I did was just go into the text editor and just grab the embed codes for each one of these files and installed it. So it was done on May 16th, 2015. So it's been almost 2 years.
So Ken, I don't know what problem you're running into, but maybe you should change templates and try that. Just a really simple template, right? Nothing with all fancy garbage. Just something really, really simple.
Yeah,
and
could
see
be
what
something
happens.
simple. Yeah. Cool. Okay, guys, I think that's it. Thanks everybody for being.
I think Bradley's switching.
Are we back now?
Yep.
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for everyone being here. We'll see you in Syndication Academy webinar in just a few minutes.
Woo! See you, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Drama.